Hello, this video is both a guide and a tutorial about ADS Cinematic Manager, which is a pack for Unreal Engine 5 that I sell on Fab. ADS Cinematic Manager is a ready-to-use system that allows you to easily trigger cutscenes, cinematics, and even playlists of cinematics. The system also lets you skip cutscenes or cinematics, and even pause them by displaying a pause overlay. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about all of that. Of course, to use this system, you'll need to import it into your project. To do that, go to the Fab plugin, open your library, and find the Cinematic Manager. Once that's done, click on the little plus sign here to import it into your project. After you've imported it, you'll see these two folders in your content folder, in addition to the folders you already have. The AVS folder and the folder that contains all my packs. And you'll also have the movies folder. This movies folder can be confusing because when you open it, it looks empty. But actually, it's not empty. It contains the videos in MP4 format. If I go back here to my content folder and right-click on the movies folder, I can click on Show in Explorer to open it directly in Windows Explorer. And you can clearly see that in my project, here in my content folder, then movies, I have my sample videos that I provide in MP4 format. So, the folder is actually not empty. I'll close this. It contains the videos. Alright, now I'm going to go to the ADS folder, which will contain a subfolder for each of my packs. So here, I'm going to go inside. So, you'll find the folder for the Cinematic Manager here. If you import several of my packs, you'll have a folder for each pack organized right here. There's also a shared folder here, which contains assets that will be used by all my packs, especially the mannequin. With permission from Epic Games, I've organized my packs this way so that you'll only have one mannequin if you import multiple packs. For example, if you import 4 of my packs, you'll only have one mannequin, which helps keep your project from getting unnecessarily heavy. Alright, so here, it's the Cinematic Manager that we're interested in. Let's open it up. We'll see a folder that contains all the examples I provide in the pack, a folder with the entire system, and an editor utility widget for the documentation. So the documentation is included in the project. You just need to right-click on it. Run Editor Utility Widget. This will open a window that gives you direct access to the PDF, the videos, including the one you're watching right now, as well as my Fab page. So, this is all included in the pack, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, let's go to the System folder to take a closer look at everything. This System folder contains a whole bunch of things, and the good news for you is that you don't need to touch any of it. The only thing you need to do is take the actor component that's here and add it to your player's blueprint. That's it, because the system is built into this actor component. It contains all the necessary functions. To show you, I'm going to go back to the Cinematic Manager folder and into the example folder, since I'm actually providing a sample player. So I'll open it, and you'll see that in this blueprint, at the Begin Play event, I trigger a cutscene, and as you can see, triggering a cutscene is extremely simple. You just need to get a reference to the Cinematic Manager, drag a wire, and there you have all the necessary functions. For example, play cinematic playlist, play cutscene, and play random in playlist. So, play cinematic playlist will play the cinematics from a playlist in the order defined in the playlist, and random in playlist will play the cinematics from the playlist, but in a random order. Nevertheless, you have all the functions here. Play stop, for example. Here, play and stop cinematic, stop cutscene, skip as well, skip cinematic, skip cutscene. You have all the functions right there. If I want to play a cinematic, for example, I just call play cinematic, and in the drop-down menu, I simply select the cinematic I want to play. So the process is just that simple. Alright, so now I'm going to go into the content folder here and explain to you how to add new cinematics. Because obviously, these are just example cinematics here. For your own projects, you'll be using real cinematics. For that, it's going to be very simple. First, you'll need to add your MP4 video to the Movies folder. So here, we'll right-click, select Show in Explorer to find the Movies folder, and we'll simply add our cinematic to it. For my example, I created a very quick cinematic here, which I'm showing you now. It's really fast. This is the cinematic right here, and now the MP4 is part of my project. So I can close this, and now we're going to create the asset in Unreal Engine that will allow us to play this cinematic. This asset in Unreal Engine can be stored wherever you like. As for me, for this example, I'm going to put it directly here in the content folder, but of course, your project should stay organized. You'll put it wherever you want, according to your own organization. I'm going to put it here. It's very simple to do. We'll right-click, type in File Media, and select File Media Source. We'll call it, for example, V4Video_tutorial. So, this is the asset that will contain the cinematic. For this asset, we'll need to tell it to use the cinematic I just added to my project. So we'll double-click on it to edit it. We'll go to the Details tab and assign our cinematic to the Path field. By clicking on the three little dots, Unreal Engine automatically takes us to the Movies folder, so all we have to do is select our cinematic. Next, we'll click here. Once we've done that, we'll go to the Details tab to make sure that Play on Open is checked, and optionally, Loop if we want the video to play in a loop. All that's left is to save, and that's it. I'm going to close this and go back to my content browser. You can see that my cinematic is right here. That's all there is to it. If I go back to my player, for example here, and I want to trigger a cinematic. There, well, I'll be able to find my tutorial video that I just created in the drop-down menu. So, it's as simple as that. Now, I'm going to show you how to create your own playlists. Well, this is extremely simple. We're going to right-click, type in Playlist, and select the playlist media. I'm going to call it Tutorial Playlist. And so, inside it, I'm going to add all the videos. So, for example, I'll put in 3 videos. The first one will be example number 2. The second one will be, for instance, the tutorial video I just added. And the last one will be number 1, for example. So now, I've just created a playlist with these 3 clips. The Play Cinematic Playlist function will play them for me in order, and the random version will take these 3 clips and play them in a random order. It's as simple as that. As for creating the cutscenes, they're obviously level sequences. So you should already know how to do that, right? There's no need for me to show you. The Play Cutscene function will simply list all the level sequences you have in your project, and you can just trigger them. It's as simple as that. I have one last thing to tell you, and it's about customization. So, I'm going to go into the System folder, and as I mentioned earlier, you shouldn't touch anything in there, but there are actually 2 things you can change or modify inside. The first one is in the UI folder, and it's the cinematic overlay here because this is simply the overlay that appears when you pause or press any button. So here, you can double-click on it, edit this overlay, this cinematic overlay UI, to change its appearance however you like. However, be careful. The elements that appear in bold here are variables. These are elements that are used in the code. So be sure not to delete or modify them. But for everything else, of course, you can change the appearance as you wish. Alright, but be careful to only modify the overlay and not the cinematic UI, because that's the one that actually displays the cinematic. So you shouldn't touch that one. So that was the first thing. You can change the appearance of the overlay. The second thing, then, in the system folder is about the inputs. The system will use its own input mapping context, which is this one, the IMC cinematic. So, when you trigger a cinematic or a cutscene, the system will automatically switch to that context. So, by double-clicking on Cinematic here, IMC Cinematic, you'll still be able to change the keys assigned to pause and skip. That, however, you can safely modify. Obviously, you can set whatever you want here. You'll also find another context in this folder, Any Key, which works with the Input Actions gamepad key and keyboard key. These are used to display the overlay during cinematics, or cutscenes to show a legend. Let me show you here. I'm going to trigger the cutscene here. And if I press any key, you can see that a small overlay appears at the bottom. It shows up whenever you press any key. So that's what the Any key is for. Whenever you press any key, this is displayed. When you press the pause button, the full overlay is displayed. And when you press another key, the bottom overlay with the buttons appears. So that's the Any key, which lets you display this overlay at the bottom by pressing any key. So again, you don't need to change anything here. The system automatically enables and disables it. You don't need to do anything with it. Now that we've covered this, I've explained everything there is to know about the Cinematic Manager. If it's still not clear enough, my email is included in the documentation provided in the pack. You could also join me on my Discord server, which is linked in the description, if you want to discuss this further or need additional help. All that's left for me to do is wish you good luck with your development. Thank you, and see you soon.